Hey everybody, how y'all doing? Hey, good. Let's get started. The word of the day. Word of the day is melanin. Melanin, a dark brown to black pigment occurring in the hair, skin, and iris of the eye in people and animals. It is responsible for tanning of the skin exposed to sunlight. But before we get started with this, let's go ahead and issue this disclaimer. Fair use, Section 107. That way, I don't get hit with no copyright. But this is for educational and commenting so I can educate the peoples. All right, back to it. So as we know, most people have in common two eyes, whether they wearing bifocals or they using a two good God-given eyes that they got, good, hopefully good vision. But for people who have brown eyes, the allele for brown eyes is the most dominant allele and is always dominant over the other two alleles. And the allele for green eyes is always dominant over the allele for blue eyes, which is always recessive. So for at least most people who have kids, I hear people when they talk with the kids and the eye color. That's one thing that gets brought up, and if they happen to be white people, then they usually want their kids' eyes to be blue or green. For melanated people, brown people, it really doesn't really matter to them, so they don't really pay too much attention. They usually kind of want those lighter hazel eyes, but usually the whiter people, they usually be like, "Oh, my eyes, the baby's eyes don't go back to brown," But do people ever wonder why that happens? And that has a lot to do with genetics, and that's one thing that your eyes, you can look at somebody's eyes and pretty much tell, somewhat what type of genetics they have. In humans, eye color is determined by the amount of light that reflects off the iris, a muscular structure that controls how much light enters the eye. The range in the eye color from blue to hazel to brown depends on the level of melanin pigment stored in the melosome packets in the melanocytes of the iris. Blue contains minimal amounts of pigment with a small number of melosomes. Irises from green to hazel eyes show moderate pigment levels and melosomes number, while brown eyes are the result of high melanin levels stored across many melosomes. So if you look at the figure, you can pretty much see the blue eyes, they pretty much ain't really got melosomes, so really no melanin. Then it goes down to the next tier, green, a few more, and then you got the brown eyes, which you can see a lot of melanin. So that's why most of your melanated brown, dark people have brown eyes, because they are full of melanin. So if we look at the world's population by eye color, we can see right here it shows us 1 through 6, the top one being 70 to 80%. Most people have brown eyes. Then it goes down to blue and hazel and so on. So, just looking right there, that can tell you a lot if you know how to critically think and see through the evidence what's given. Like I said before, eye color eye colors are beautiful and distinctive aspect of reflecting one's personality and ancestry. So, like I said, you can pretty much tell, what's in our DNA through the eye color. If you take it back a few years in time, back when we had the good old slavery days, then, people with brown eyes, they was pretty much considered that one drop bull, so even if you was light skinned and you had brown eyes, they pretty much knew that you had melanin, black blood. So you probably consider mulatto, black, whatever the classification during that time period. So let's get back to it. A whopping 70 to 8% of the world's population have brown or darkly pigmented irises, making brown the most common eye color worldwide. Researchers at the American Academy of Ophthalmology, whatever that word, have stated that everyone on the planet has brown eyes around 10,000 years ago. Ooh, that's a big statement right there. Hold on. Rewind that back. They stated that everyone on the planet Earth had brown eyes around 10,000 years ago. So just giving them information that I've given you, uh, about melanin. And we know the people, the dark people on Earth, that's what they're covered in, melanin. So that's pretty much telling you that 10,000 years ago, everybody was brown skinned with brown eyes. That's what they're saying. Am I right or am I wrong? So, knowing if you apply the good book, how it talks about, not messing with them, so that lets you know that there was more than one race God said not to mix with. So, if you look at our genetics today, how the numbers gave us that 78% have brown eyes. And then we go on down to blue was the next class, I think, at 10%, and then so on. Then you would see how the mixing, how you can take somebody of darker skin with brown eyes, and through the genetic mixing, over time, that darker color would get lighted out. And so at one end of the spectrum, you would have dark skin, brown eyes. To the other end of the spectrum, far end of the spectrum, you would have white, gray eyes. And if you're working your way back, blue, green, and so that's how we get the mixing of people that we have today. In America, we call them black, even though they have brown skin, which makes no sense, and white people, but they're all the same color. It's just that genetically, if you white and have brown eyes, you still have melanin, so you still have black blood, but it's just throughout your genetics, it's just been mixed out. So if you keep mating with a white person, that's how it happens. But if you go back to black, then it's gonna reverse it. So it's a mixing thing. That's why they call America the Great Mixing Bowl, the melting pot. Peace, one love, y'all. Stay up, all the guys and goddesses.